Hey, new law students, if you're finding it really hard to understand some of your really complex cases, then stick around because in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to use the NotebookLM tool, in particular, their most recent function that has just been released, and that's their new video and presentation function. So let's jump in. For this test run today, I'm going to be using a famous Australian case known as the WorkChoices case. So if you're studying law in Australia, you will definitely come across this case. It's one of our most important High Court cases. It's quite a complex case, and there is some complex history leading up to the actual case, and then also there's impacts following the case. So hence, that's why it is a very important case that we study if you're based in the Australian jurisdiction. So I'm pretty anxious to give this a go because what I'm hoping is that this new video and presentation function, I'll be uploading my messy notes that I took around this case from my lectures, and then I'll be asking it to generate a summary video presentation based only on my notes. So yeah, let's give it a go. So on the homepage here on NotebookLM, I can either just click here and select create new notebook, or up here in the black button, so create new, and straight away I get to upload my resources. So if you want to have more information around what's happening throughout this process, please check out my other videos. Otherwise, for this video, I'm just going to race through the whole process. So I'm just going to upload my notes document, and here I have my notes that I want to upload. So just click on there and select open, and straight away you'll see it's now uploading my notes document, and straight away you'll see it's already given me a nice short summary of my notes. But what we want to test run is over in the studio panel on the right hand side. Since I've done my previous videos on NotebookLM, you'll notice that the user interface over here has changed just a little bit. And you'll also notice that this is where they've got this new video and presentation function. So all I need to do is just literally just click on the video overview button. So we'll go ahead and you'll see a message here that it's generating the video. Now it will take a few minutes, so I will stop the video here and then I'll come back when it's ready to have a look. All right, it looks like our video presentation is now ready to look at. So let's just click on the button. Here we go. And I will press go.
All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest, most explosive constitutional cases in Australian history, the WorkChoices case. Now, this was way more than just a dry legal argument. This was a full-blown showdown over who really holds the power in Australia, the Commonwealth or the states. And if you want to get a sense of the sheer impact of this case, you just have to look at this quote. Professor Greg Craven called the High Court's decision the constitutional equivalent of a dirty bomb. And trust me, that is not an exaggeration. This single decision detonated in our legal landscape and permanently changed the shape of Australian federalism. Now, this wasn't some abstract debate happening in a courtroom far away. The law behind all of this, the WorkChoices Act, had a massive real-world impact from day one. And this number here, 85%, that's the percentage of Australian workers whose jobs, pay, and conditions were basically thrown into a brand new national system almost overnight. So let's set the scene. Picture this. It's 2005. The Commonwealth government rolls out the Workplace Relations Amendment Act, better known as WorkChoices. And its goal? Well, it was incredibly ambitious and, as it turned out, hugely controversial. They wanted to create one single national workplace system for the entire country. Now, here's the really clever, or depending on your point of view, really sneaky part of their strategy. For decades, federal governments had used a very narrow, very specific power in the Constitution to make workplace laws. It only let them deal with industrial disputes that cross state lines. But WorkChoices, it just threw that whole playbook out the window. Instead, it gambled everything on a much broader, much less tested section, the corporation's power. It was a massive, high-stakes pivot. Well, you can probably guess what happened next. The states, they freaked out. They saw this as a colossal power grab by the federal government, a direct invasion into their turf. Industrial relations had always been their patch, and they were not about to give it up without a fight. And this wasn't just one or two states complaining. We're talking about a massive coalition lining up against the Commonwealth. You had 5 states, 2 of the country's most powerful unions, all backed up by the territories. Together, they all marched into the High Court with one single unified goal: to get the entire WorkChoices Act declared unconstitutional. So, the battle lines were drawn. In the High Court, the states launched what was essentially a 3-pronged attack against the law. Let's break down each of their arguments, and more importantly, see how the court shot them down one by one. So, argument number 1. The states tried to draw a line in the sand. They argued that the corporation's power was only ever meant to let the Commonwealth regulate a company's external business, things like trade and finance. They said the relationship a company has with its own employees was a purely internal affair, and therefore totally off limits. Yeah, the High Court majority was not impressed. They basically said this whole internal versus external idea was artificial and unhelpful. Their job, they said, is to read the words that are actually in the Constitution. And guess what? A distinction like that simply wasn't there. So the first argument went down in flames. Okay, so with their first argument shot down, the states tried another angle. This time, they argued that a law couldn't just happen to apply to corporations. They said the law itself needed to have a distinctive character, meaning the very nature of it had to be fundamentally about being a corporation. And strike 2. The court rejected this one as well. The majority saw this distinctive character test as just an unnecessary filter, an extra hurdle that wasn't actually written into the Constitution. By knocking it down, they sent a really clear signal. We're moving towards a much, much broader view of federal power. This brings us to their third and final shot, and it was probably their most clever argument. The states pointed out that the Constitution has a very specific, limited power for industrial relations. They argued that those specific limits should act as a brake on the more general corporation's power. In other words, you can't use a broad power to get around the limits placed on a specific one. But for the third and final time, the High Court's majority said no. They went back to a fundamental principle of how you read the Constitution. Each power is read broadly and on its own terms. One power doesn't automatically limit another. The court just refused to import the restrictions from the industrial power over to the corporation's power. And with that, the state's case was over. So with all 3 of the state's major arguments dismissed, the final verdict was clear. In a landmark 5-2 decision, the High Court of Australia ruled that the entire WorkChoices law was perfectly valid. It was a constitutional exercise of the Commonwealth's corporation's power. But here's the wild part. Where did this seemingly radical new interpretation of the law come from? Well, it turns out it wasn't new at all. The seed was planted more than a decade earlier in a dissenting opinion from a single judge, Justice Gaudron. Back then, her super broad view of the corporation's power was the minority opinion. But fast forward to 2006, and a new majority on the court picked up her exact reasoning. What was once a lonely dissenting voice was now the law of the land. It's an absolutely fascinating legal story. So what does this new supercharged corporation's power actually mean? Well, it's huge. The court defined it in these incredibly broad terms. It now covers a corporation's activities, functions, relationships, its business, but then it goes even further. It covers anyone whose actions might just affect a corporation. The door for federal power wasn't just opened, it was blown clean off its hinges. But not everyone on the court was celebrating this. The 2 dissenting judges, Justices Kirby and Callanan, were united in their alarm. They were often called the court's odd couple because of their very different ways of thinking, but on this, they were on the same page, and they issued some pretty dire warnings. Justice Kirby was scathing. He basically accused the majority of having forgotten that Australia is a federation. He warned that this decision would allow for opportunistic federalism, where the Commonwealth could now wander into any area it wanted, health, education, you name it, as long as it framed the law as applying to corporations. He feared it would effectively destroy the states. And Justice Callanan echoed that fear. He argued that a fundamental change to the country's power balance this big was just plain dangerous. He said a shift this massive shouldn't be made by 5 judges in robes. If you're going to change the system so drastically, it should be the Australian people who decide, through a referendum. And this brings us right back to that dirty bomb. The decision was handed down. The constitutional bomb had gone off. So, what did the real world fallout look like after the dust had settled?
The consequences were profound and really permanent. The federal government's power just exploded, while the power of the states was radically shrunk. All of a sudden, Canberra could make laws in all these traditional state areas, health, education, even local planning, just as long as they were aimed at corporations. The federal balance that Australia had known for 100 years was redrawn in a single day.
Which, of course, leaves us with the big, provocative question that people are still debating today. After the WorkChoices case, are there any real, meaningful limits left on federal power? By tying its power to corporations, which are, well, everywhere, did the High Court essentially hand the Commonwealth a blank check to legislate on almost anything? That's the powerful question this landmark case leaves us with.
Wow. I'm in shock. That's incredible, man. So that would have been a beautiful introduction for me when I first came across the Work Choices case, because it literally just painted a high-level story of the broader context of this case. Yeah, that was incredible. I could, if I want to, upload the actual case document, and using the chat function in the middle panel here, I could then ask it to, create another video and be sure to include your typical case brief information as well. What I love about some of these AI tools is that in a way it's kind of like a study buddy or a study coach for you, and it really helps you go through a lot of complex information. But the good thing with this is that it's a MP4. It looks like, yes, you can just download the MP4 file down over here. It's definitely would lay a nice foundation to then jump into and read the actual case document. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed learning about this tool as much as I enjoyed giving it a test run today. I have to say, though, that the graphics on the slides didn't look too good, so maybe that's something that will be improved over time. But anyway, I'll see you next time.